Welcome and Happy New Year. You are listening to the new EA View. It's an EA talk show. I'm gathered here with several of my friends and colleagues. Their faces might look very familiar to you if you were tuning in the last 6 months or studying evolutionary astrology at all. These are some very gifted evolutionary astrologers and very invested in this journey of the soul. So we are all gathering here on a new series called the EA View, as I mentioned, looking at the fingerprint of our soul in particular. But we want to also have some fun here. We want to laugh, we want to cry together, we want to feel something on this journey. So that is our intention, to teach you more and to help you feel more within your own journey. So I'd like to introduce our team here today, the women. Hello to Deva Green, welcome back. Say hello, Dee.
Thanks so much for including me in this amazing series and amazing panel.
Of course, we could never do this without you. And Stacie Pazura, welcome.
Hello. Thanks
Welcome
for having me back.
Rose Marcus, hello.
Hello, I'm excited to be
Vancouver.
here.
And Tara All, welcome back.
Thank you, Kristin. Super happy to be here.
From Southern Cal, our Southern Cal girl. And Sol Jonassen, welcome back from Norway.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Yeah, it's nice to be the your contender.
Yes.
So really happy to be here to get some of that transatlantic perspective.
Thank you for bringing it. We need it. And we've got Canada, we've got the US, and we've got Europe here today. All right, so today's topics, we are so excited. We're going to start with a special power animal introduction as we are on the heels of an extensive natural astrology series. One of the natural archetypes of the soul, or the soul structure, is the daemon archetype. We're going to get into that a little bit, but we're going to share our power animals. And we're going to teach a foundational principle of evolutionary astrology, one every month. We are looking at skip steps this month. However, we may talk about skip steps again. It is a very common theme. Many of you listening probably have one. And a lot of people that are attracted to evolutionary astrology want to know why they keep getting stuck at a certain step. So we're going to address skip steps today. And the real reason why this whole series came into being was because we are learning how to follow our fingerprint, and that's exactly what we are doing as souls on this journey. And I remember the founder of evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green, used to marvel at people who are following their fingerprint. It takes a lot of courage to do that. So many of us will deviate from our fingerprint in order to feel secure. So we're going to help you learn more about how to do that for yourselves. We're also going to have a little comedy today with Sol, and she always makes us laugh. So we gave her that task, so natural. And we have a special guest interview. It's our section called Expanding the EA Circle. We're very excited to hear more from Sarah DeHaven today. She's doing some incredible work. And as our rookie, for someone who's really getting into evolutionary astrology, we want to support your journey. And of course, music and movies with Deva Green. Music and movies are a big part of her life, and she has got this unbelievable repertoire and memory for such things, lyrics and messages from movies. So we want to inspire you. When you leave here today, we want you to be able to leave with some music and a movie to watch that expresses the archetype of Capricorn this month. That's what we're focusing on because we are in the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Some big changes with Saturn shifting into the sign of Aquarius. And the signature transit of the month, Rose Marcus is spearheading this section. She is an expert with transits, as we all know. It's been a joy to journey with her every month for many years, looking at the transits. So we're going to look at a key transit this month. And I'll finish the show with an inspirational message to lead you into the world until we gather again next month. All right, power animals. So I thought a really special way to start this series was to ask the ladies, What is your power animal and why? So luckily, we all picked different ones. I think Stacie and I arm wrestled for wolf, but I actually have two power animals. I will say they are equal to my nature. And I'm going to start with just a brief story of why I chose the wild stallion. Early on in my journey, I was reminded that the body doesn't lie, right? We know the truth when we hear it. If we are really tapping into our natures and if we're following our intuition. And I have 3 planets in the sign of Sagittarius. So I have really leaned on my intuition in life, and it's helped me and served me well. But very early on in my journey, I remember Jeff Green telling me, "You are a wild stallion that cannot be broken." And when he said those words to me, I just fell apart. I actually could fall apart right now still, 20 years later, 20 plus years later. And he reminded me of my nature with those words. And I wasn't a Sagittarius in this life for no reason. Like, you know, I feel like I'm half horse, half human in many ways. And if I move into this world or I walk in this world, really just expressing my roots, my nature, that's what I feel like when I think of the closest animal to my spirit. And so here is my mug, my wild stallion mug. And we are doing a talk show today. We're all going to be holding our mugs and sharing that part of our spirit with you. And when we look at the animal kingdom, we can all connect really naturally to different animals if we really think about who we most want to embody naturally. And so wild stallion is my power animal. And I'd like to ask Deva, why the rabbit, girl? show us your mug. Why the bunny?
Here's my rabbit mug.
Oh, that is so cute. I love that.
The reason I chose rabbit is because for me, the rabbit correlates to or symbolizes an aspect where we are working through our fears, which is an essential part of recovering our fingerprint. And the first pet that I cared for was a bunny, and she came to me in a very pivotal time in my life. Pluto was transiting Mars, and I was working through a lot of my own fears. And again, the rabbit, when in rabbit form, it's you embody rabbit form when you have fears that you need to be nurtured through. So together we nurtured each other through our own fears, and she became a really natural teacher for me. And we helped each other through nurturing each other through different fears that would come up as we were both together recovering our natures is what it felt like. So for me, the rabbit became a very natural teacher in that sense, and encouragement to nurture yourself through any fears.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to the rabbit. I think we're a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that that vulnerable piece that is so required for the journey, right? To be deeply in those emotions, even when they don't feel so comfortable. It's all part of evolving. All right, Stacie, give us your wolf.
All right, so here's my mug.
I love it. It's beautiful.
I love it too. It's so cool. So I chose the wolf because it's something that came to me later in life. One of the things that I really associate with the wolf is the need to guard boundaries and also to respect boundaries. Wolves have a natural hierarchy where everyone fits in some role relative to what the group needs. It's a very highly emotional species. And so just the slightest, ways that they have their ears or their tail or their hackles, everything communicates something. And the other thing is that, you know, the wolf has had a history of being demonized. And for me personally, this has been important because I personally, you know, I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, and sometimes when I feel really passionate about something, I come across as intense. And people misinterpret it often. They think, because I know, you know, I have a Pisces moon and just all kinds of water and a lot of gentle dynamics, but when my passion kicks in, it's definitely a contrast. And that is something that I've had to kind of wrestle with within my life, is learning how to own my power, learning how to own my intensity, and learning how to make terms or make peace with the fact that some things are demonized. So it has been a real animal of courage for me. And the other thing I want to say is loyalty. That's another huge thing within the wolf. And the key lesson in that is that you want to choose your tribe. You want to find and you want to choose your tribe. Now, your tribe is going to be basically a group of people who are evolving along the same general path. There will be people who are farther along the path. There will be people who are, you know, beginning, but you work as a group and you're going in the same direction. And so it's a very important thing to choose your path. And I feel that specifically through EA, I found my tribe. And so that's what I have to say.
You found your pack.
Yeah, I did.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Stace. All right, Soul.
No, yeah. Woohoo. Well, I had a little mercurial glitch with my thing. It didn't arrive on time, but the person who was supposed to deliver it was actually on my door, so yesterday, but couldn't fit it in the mailbox. So I've been running around town looking for my silverback. You know, where's my silverback? I need my silverback back, you know, and it is the mountain gorilla. And I couldn't find it in town. You know, I went from one post office after the other, and they were just like, sorry, it's Saturday now. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. Please give me my mug. I need it tonight. But I have a brilliant daughter, and she's quite the artiste. So when I was walking desperately trying to find my silverback, I thought, why not make her draw me one? So I gave her a challenge when I came home, and this is the result. I got my silverback mug. Isn't it amazing?
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So it came home to me through my daughter. And the silverback is something, I don't know, it's a fascinating animal. It is the patriarch of a tribe of mountain gorillas. And it's just their posture, you know, something with that posture. I actually, when we had this astrology rising in Costa Rica, I think it was in 2017, Maurice Fernandez had us draw one card each for the beginning of the conference. We all drew our card, and I got the silverback, and it touched my heart really deeply, because I'm like, but I already love this animal. I just adore it. You know, there's always something with that incredible pose, you know, that presence that amazed me. It's the presence. So sometimes when I meditate, I often see or feel that this incredibly strong animal is having my back. And it's just such a decisive power. It's mild and gentle and will never attack unless threatened. It's highly intelligent. It's taking care of its family. And it's very protective in its energy. And for me, that's exactly what I feel, it teaches me just through looking at it. And the subconscious is just picking up some qualities that I find very grounding, extremely nurturing and protective. It's family, you know, and that's for me very important. So hence the silverback.
Oh, I love it. I think you should just keep that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't imagine. The one that's supposed to arrive is not going to come close to that one.
I'm sure it won't. I'll bring the news to my daughter.
To your daughter.
Yeah, she will appreciate it a lot.
I love
yeah,
what
thank you.
I love that you said that that they have your back, that you feel like the silverback has your back. It's just perfect to have that kind of energy. And that's what we all want, for someone to have our back in this life, right?
Yeah.
To have that feeling.
Yeah, and for me that's sensitive because I've always been, you know, I'm a loner, and I'm an Aquarius woman who's like unmarried, mother of 2 on my own, and to have that matriarch that's not in my life, you know, have it like in my aura, it sort of gives me strength. I like it. I love it. So just absorbing that kind of energy, it makes me feel really strong.
That's awesome. That's what they're all about, right? Tuning into this spirit of that animal. All right, Tara, how about you?
Well, can you see? It's an abstract hawk. Okay.
Beautiful.
Um,
Wait, Tara, I have to ask you, you're from Seattle. Are you a Seahawks fan?
Sports are really not my thing. I mean, sports to me, like I've done scuba diving, skiing, like I like sports where you can like be with other people, but not count on them. Like you can. So, but I am from Seattle, yes. And so being from Seattle, actually my parents still live in the same house I grew up in Kent, which is just a suburb of Seattle. And there's lots of nature and lots of trees, lots of green there. So lots of opportunity to see hawks. And for me, hawk came to me before I even knew about power animals or spirit animals. I was a child. I don't remember exactly when, and I called my parents trying to see if they remember the exact age. They don't either. Grade school at some point. And we were on the freeway, anyone who's from that area, on the 167 North, driving up to our church, Presbyterian church. And so driving fast, 55 was the speed limit then. And a hawk, a red-tailed hawk, I don't know how it happened because we're going forward. It was literally expanded, face to our windshield, looking straight at me. At the time, I'm trying to figure out, because the only bird that can fly backwards is a hummingbird, right? So I don't know if it was diving down to get something. It didn't hit us, but it was like, and I kid you not, like this close. That thing looked me in the eye. And what I can tell you now is it's fascinating. I didn't even think about this until I was asked to share this story here, how meaningful it is that we were driving to church, Christian church at that time, when that hawk looked through that window, because now I know that was clearly, you know, a reminder there's more, like there's just more in general. So that was years ago. And Rose is going to talk about her owl, but the owl and the hawk, of all the raptors, have the keenest vision. So it's very, very much about honing in and focusing and being able to see. Hawk in particular is a messenger, and particular messenger from spirit. And what I now know, with my South Node in Gemini ruled by Mercury and my North Node in Sag ruled by Jupiter, the hawk is associated with both of those gods in mythology. So now I can see how it literally weaves into my evolutionary path. Second story, because I evidently one close encounter wasn't enough for me. When I was in my 30s, I was in Hawaii on vacation, staying, you know, at wherever I was staying. I went out, and this hawk flew down right in front of me, caught a bird, and literally tore it apart and ate it. I mean, it was so close. I could show you guys. Here's a picture that I took of it. You can actually see see the blood on its beak.
Whoa.
And I'm a photographer as well, and it just let me, I photographed the entire thing. I have the feathers. I collected all the feathers of the bird that it ate afterward. They're in a medicine pouch to this day. And the people around the area, you know, the Hawaiians, like that, those Hawaiian hawks, they never come in that close. It must have been really hungry. So for me, sometimes I just need a fierce reminder that you can have anything happen anywhere at any time. Like it's always available to you. And that's one of the biggest things that I take away from that. Hawks, you know, you watch them in the sky, birds pick on them all the time, right? Not everybody will get it. Not everybody will get you, and you just have to keep on, you know. Yeah. But if you're open to see, I mean, I feel like so thankful that I was, because like those were real, those birds, like they weren't just like in a deck or something, like they came to my life. So thank you
Wow.
for asking me to talk about it again, because I hadn't resynthesized like at my point in life now with it.
You know, it's so interesting that for all of us, when we were thinking about a power animal, it connected to an emotional thing for all of us, right? Because one of the things about the daemon archetype itself is that the animals are pure emotion. And so as we think about these animal spirits, it taps into emotion that we've experienced in our journey. And I will say one thing, that's something that's really come to me the last year or so, and is that I have been looking back in my life. I've just sort of been obsessed with my past last year with all that Capricorn energy. And I can tell you there have been countless things where I felt like God made things so obvious to me. Like, come on, Fontana, don't figure it out. Like, and that hawk you are a messenger, Tara. Like, you are here today. You've been a messenger of this work and in your life. It's a thing that means so much to you to help other people, to be a voice of just helping people connect to their truth. And so I just encourage everybody listening to this series to look back at your past, all the different crossroads that you experienced, all these different times in your history when there have been messages for you. And you know, it's a powerful thing. And that hawk clearly was a messenger for you, Tara. So thank you for sharing your story. And Rosie.
Well, I love that, Tara, that you talked about that emotional piece of it. Power animals or totem animals, I think, they stay with you for a certain length of time, and the animals come and they go as well too, right? And just before we started this series, and I was telling Kristin about this, it was, the end of the evening, and I was taking the dog out, and I opened the front door, and sitting on the wires directly in front of the house was an owl staring right at me. And I had such an emotional reaction with that. Now it's dark, and this bird is sitting there and piercing right into my soul. That was an instantaneous connection that I made with that owl. And so I felt that the owl had come to be with me for this series, or for this period of time. And the owl, of course, has acute hearing and sight. It is then I had to go research all about the owl, the eyes of the night. And so the owl has the ability to see into the soul, and it reads, what is hidden from view. And the owl represents the faculties of clairaudience and clairvoyance, which are skill sets that I use. And in this work, this is exactly what we do when we look at the chart. Is we pierce right into the soul when we do the Pluto paradigm, correct? So this is how we are able to get into that. And of the things that I researched and found out, because of course I didn't know everything here, but the owl was representative of the feminine and the moon and the night vision, of course. For the Greeks, the owl was related to Pallas Athena, who was the guardian of the Acropolis. And I happen to have Pallas Athena conjunct my Pluto, which I thought was very interesting. And you'll love this as well too, Kristin. She's also associated with Lilith. And I also have Lilith conjunct my sun, conjunct my Libra moon as well too. So I thought very appropriate that owl has come to be with me at this point in time.
I love that. Thank you, Rose. All right. Well, I'm so excited to dive in with more today, and thank you for bringing your spirits and all the animal spirits to this session. So I'd like to welcome Deva into this next section as she teaches us about the foundational principle of skip steps, in particular Pluto square the nodes today, as we will be looking at this very signature in an example fingerprint chart to follow.
Thank you so much also for sharing and getting into the spirit of the animals and how to recover ourselves, following our fingerprint. Beautiful intro into the EA paradigm. And the best is to give a brief introduction or outline as to what we look for in a evolutionary astrology interpretation. How do we orient towards the chart? What's the Pluto paradigm? What do these different symbols represent? And the starting point of any evolutionary astrology interpretation is Pluto. Pluto correlates to the soul and the dual desires within the soul, one to return and one to separate. So as such, it's going to be a natural gravitation point coming into the life. We all gravitate to what we know, to what's known and familiar. Pluto correlates to the deepest sense of unconscious emotional security that any of us can have. So it's a natural pickup point. So when we're looking at Pluto, it's where the soul has left off prior to the current life. And again, a natural orientation or a natural pickup point coming into the life, and where you'll see the dual desires of one to return and one to separate, which is why it's the beginning, why it's the starting point of any interpretation that we'll do. And from that, we'll then look to the South Node, and the South Node is the prior egocentric structure of the soul, the egocentric structure that the soul is created to integrate its past desires. So another way of saying it is that the South Node, as the prior egocentric structure, is how Pluto has went about to consciously actualize itself. It's how the soul will consciously has consciously actualized prior to the current life, the desire symbolized by Pluto. The next point then is to look at its planetary ruler. The planetary ruler is what rules the sign, not the house. There can be confusion that way. So looking at that just as the same principle as the South Node has, or Pluto has used the South Node to actualize itself, so too will the planetary ruler. So when you look at those three symbols, Pluto, South Node, planetary ruler, it's the trinity of the past. You'll be looking at the core of the soul's emotional body coming into the life, and where they'll naturally pick up or where they'll naturally gravitate to, and a way to talk or a way to orient towards the bottom lines that are within the birth chart and core archetypes that are symbolized. The next steps then are Pluto's polarity point. And Pluto polarity point symbolizes the current intentions. In a way, it's how to break out of or break free from the limitations of the past that correlate to Pluto, where we keep returning to for security reasons. It creates a circuit of energy, and I really wanted to emphasize that point, that it's not so much that we're moving away from Pluto and only going towards its polarity points. It's that through embracing the opposite house and sign, through embracing the opposite psychology, so to speak, the opposite dynamics, an automatic regeneration and balancing of Pluto's natal energy occurs, so that it can come to its highest level of expression. So when you look at the Pluto paradigm, or when you look at these symbols, don't think of it as negative, positive, or moving away, moving towards. Think of it as a circuit of energy, and ultimately a system that balances itself by embracing the polarity to bring things to its highest actualization, or to its fullest expression. So when we look at Pluto's polarity points, it's where you can guide yourself and where you can guide others for their next steps, how to balance those patterns that often repeat themselves, and so on. And then to bridge from that, how that will be integrated, just like the South Node, the North Node. The North Node is the evolving or developing egocentric structure, the self-image that the soul will create to consciously actualize its next steps, the polarity point. And the planetary ruler, and those are facilitators, just as in Pluto's, the North Node again is a facilitator for Pluto, and the planetary ruler is a facilitator for the North Node, and those can be called the trinity of the future. those 3 points that symbolize the soul's next step, how it will be actualized, and so on. So those are really the points that you can coach yourself and coach others towards in terms of, again, creating a natural balancing or being able to bring those Trinity of the past symbols to their fullest expression. So again, it's another way of emphasizing it's not moving towards or moving away. It's about bringing these symbols or bringing the energy to the highest level that it can be, which is what many of us strive for. So when you look at these symbols, you're looking at the core of the emotional, the soul's past, the core of the emotional body coming into the life, Pluto, South Node, planetary ruler, and then Pluto's polarity point, North Node, and its ruler are the soul's next steps and how those will be actualized in this life. And then as Kristin was sharing, that a foundational principle then is one of a skip step. So what happens then when you see Pluto, when you look at the birth chart, you'll see a skip step when Pluto squares the nodes and also when any other planet squares the nodes. But when you see Pluto in specific square the nodes, which is what we'll focus on, it's when the soul has, when you see Pluto square the nodal axis, the soul has created a skip step in the context of its past and future, that it's been flip-flopping between the orientation of the past, South Node, and the future, North Node. And it's been doing that in such a way that neither area has been brought to full development or completion. So it becomes absolutely essential that the soul recovers these skip steps so that growth can continue. You'll be in a stagnation point, almost a standstill, re-experiencing the same dynamics that are intended to propel the soul or guide the soul to recover these skip steps. How are we going to do that? Within that, we're going to look to the resolution node, which will indicate specifically how the skip steps of past and future will be integrated throughout the life. The key is consistency, and the resolution node will create the bottom line for that resolution to happen. So how you determine that then is, for example, it's the node that, the easiest way to explain it is if the node, it's the node that's moving away from Pluto because it's the node that last formed a conjunction. And the mean motion of the nodes is retrograde. So let's say if you were looking at the birth chart, it would be the node that's to the right of Pluto. I'm a visual learner. So think about it as the node that's to the right, or the node that's moving away, because that's the node that last formed a conjunction to Pluto, and that's the foundation through how the skip steps will be integrated and resolved. So if you see a skip step, really focus in on that resolution node and its planetary ruler as the means to create consistency, as a means to help resolve that flip-flopping that created the skip step. And also a key within that is whether you're just moving into the square or whether you're moving out of the square. Because if you're just beginning that process, it's just what it sounds like, that it's brand new, that the soul is just working on these lessons. It's a new experience. The analogy that really helped me understand this process is the pair of blue jeans. When you first get the blue jeans, they're stiff, they're uncomfortable, they're new. You have to work a while to break it in. So the soul is just learning to work with the intensity that these experiences can often bring. And as you progress, or as you're just coming out of the square, it doesn't mean that the experiences are any less intense, but it's like the soul has become used to it, or the soul has experienced these things prior to the life. So it's almost like an indication of, okay, it's inducing these lessons to their final ends. The blue jeans are becoming worn in and comfortable. Oftentimes there can be feelings of deja vu, like I know I've done this before, and here's the final kick in the keister. So it can be, even though the experiences are very similar, no less intense, when you're moving out of the square, it's a feeling of culmination. well, when you're moving into the square, it's brand new, that it can be very, the key is, again, to create consistency so that the intensity of the experiences can be given an integration point or a foundation or a means to work through the skip steps. So the moving in is that brand new feeling, and the moving out is culmination and kind of buttoning things up or seeing it through to the very end.
Okay, wonderful. I think you meant the node to the left, not the right, the resolution node.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
I just didn't want anybody to get confused, because I
It's to
know,
the
because
left.
I've been focused on my resolution node my whole entire life. It is, if you're standing on the skip, the planet that's squaring the nodes, it's the node to the left to make it
Node to the left.
not the right. Okay, but we will show this example in our fingerprint chart. Thank you,
Yeah.
Deva.
And Deva, I'm going to call on you again because we actually want to talk about specifically what Pluto square the nodes means. So I'm going to re-add you to my list when we come into the fingerprint here. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, let's take this deeper and look at an example chart with Pluto squaring the nodes. And this is a soul that we feel in this lifetime is really following or followed her fingerprint. It's a historical figure, Rosa Parks. But before I pass this torch to Tara, I want to share with everybody that, wow, many of us may not actually express our original fingerprint or our natural fingerprint in full. For example, this lifetime could be a lifetime where you're on your way back to that fingerprint, because we are all learning to recover, or an attempt to recover the full nature of who we are. And if, for example, if you're a daemon soul and your nature is to live, you know, in the woods with plants and animals, but you're working in the field of astrology, your fingerprint is daemon and wanting to be maybe a medicine woman out in the world. I mean, astrology is a mean, maybe your work as an astrologer might be a means to get you back to your original fingerprint. So we're all in a state of becoming, and we're all here to express more fully who we are, but don't feel necessarily like every lifetime you're going to be doing exactly what it is that God made you to, or created you to do, God, goddess. And so that's just something I wanted you all to think about. Even Rosa Parks in this context, of course, what she was doing in that lifetime, empowering herself through that square, was part of her nature, for sure, the courage that was required. But the role that she played in that life in full may have not been the full embodiment of her fingerprint. So just wanted to share that. Okay, Tara, it's all you.
Okay. I don't even know if, so Kristin, you say it so well. You say when someone's really following their fingerprint that you couldn't imagine doing anything else with your life. And that really resonates with me. And but of course we can't talk to Rosa today to ask her if she feels that way. But and also just when you are following your fingerprint, there's just a feeling of living naturally. We have a lot of background on these slides, and I'll talk about a little bit of it, but I also made a couple notes myself when I was looking into this. And before we start with the background, I just want to make a couple of notes about Capricorn as an archetype, because that's really what we're digging into today. Capricorn has a lot to do with respect, and especially self-respect. And that really comes out when we look at Rosa Parks. When I think about Capricorn, one of the ways, and there's so many ways, and each of these archetypes is full of different ways of looking at them. But one thing to think about with Capricorn as a cardinal sign, it initiates the inner, meaning yin, the inner alignment and integrity of self in form and then in public or in society. So there is with Capricorn this bringing of self out into the world and needing to make a stand for it. And so we can go through the background a little bit here. Rosa Parks, she was an American activist in the civil rights movement, and she's best known for her role in the Montgomery bus boycott. So I'm not going to read these all word for word. Here's the thing. In 1955, right, she was 42 years old. So she wasn't even new at the civil rights stuff. And this is a good thing to remember here. She'd been putting up with stuff for a long time. In 1955, she refused to give up her seat on the bus. So this was really what she refused to give it up to a white passenger. She was already in the section of the segregated bus where she was quote unquote supposed to be, but more white people got on the bus. And so the custom was at that point in time would be then to ask the people, even when they're in their section in the segregated part, to give up their seat, right? And she didn't do it. She finally didn't do it. And she's quoted for saying, because people asked her, were you just really tired from your day at work? Like, what was the deal? And she says, the only tired I was tired of giving in, right? She was arrested for that. And it did lead to the Montgomery bus boycott. And during that boycott, some people walked 20 miles to work. Like that's how strong people were committed to saying, we're not going to run that freaking bus until something changes. And that eventually led to the end of transportation segregation. So for me, when I was, yesterday I spent some time sitting with this, and I was thinking about how real change happens, real change in the world, it happens when one person makes a stand, right? One person makes a stand. And to take a stand, and now I'm going to talk about taking a stand literally. We know it can be metaphorically. Literally, you need the body's strength to stand up, right? You need the muscles, the bones, the ligaments. You need everything about Capricorn that holds you up and holds you in. But you can extrapolate that metaphorically to any situation that you're in. It's also a metaphor for every stand we make in life. So Capricorn also can endure pressure. And I just think it's amazing, right? She was 42. She finally kept her seat and owned her space in the world at that point in time. For me, that's a beautiful articulation or example, right? Actualization of that energy. So I think here at the end here in her autobiography, in my story, she said, and this is giving more of the quote that I gave. People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that is not true. I was not tired physically, or no more tired than I usually was at the end of a working day. I was not old, although some people have an image of me as being old. I was 42. The only tired I was tired of giving in. So in 42, you guys realized, right? That's right around the Uranus opposition. Yeah. So I know that's off topic for here, but what a perfect time to be like, nope, yeah. Not anymore. And we think sometimes of Capricorn as being what keeps us stuck in the structure, but it's also what gives us the backbone to get out of the structure. So there is that shared archetype. All right, so we are bringing the chart up here. And I want to, Deva, we're going to bring you back first to talk about the EA Foundation for Rosa. And let's just state for people, because I know not everybody is watching the whole time. So I'm going to say Rosa has Pluto in the 6th house. It is square the nodes. And she has the South node in Libra in the 9th house, the North node in Aries in the 3rd house, conjunct Venus and conjunct Lilith, which we'll talk about both of those things in just a bit here. She has Jupiter and Mars in Capricorn in the 12th, and then a whole little party in the 1st house in Aquarius, but the moon is also still in Capricorn. So moon is in the 1st house in Capricorn, and then we have Uranus, Mercury, and the sun all in Aquarius in the 1st house. So this is a perfect example of how Capricorn and Aquarius really, work together. And Deva, would you please take us through just the foundations of EA for Rosa?
Yeah, looking at the baseline, starting with Pluto being in the 6th house, retrograde, and Gemini. She was literally recovering the skip step or recovering a fingerprint through refusing to take the back seat in really many ways. As you were saying, that it wasn't, or looking at the South node then being in Libra, in the 9th house, she was not allowing herself to compensate for belief systems that were inherently, what are the words for that? Recreating a sense of inferiority or lack, or that sense of superiority, inferiority. That's the Pluto in the 6th, and the Pluto being Libra in the 9th, there will be a strong need for justice and equality. Recovering also an emotional truth that's based upon equality, fair play, civil service, or the that in terms of standing up for yourself, seeing the North Node in Aries in the third house, that it requires that not refusing to take the back seat, not trying to create a false harmony, or not taking it anymore. And by doing that, by being willing to embrace whatever consequences, seeing the Mars being in the 12th house and also Moon being in Capricorn in the first, North Node being in Aries in the third house, it was saying, fine, in order not to take the back seat, if I need to be persecuted, seeing the 12th house energy here, Pluto in the 6th, fine, come what may, I'm going ahead and I'm not going to give I'm not going to take the back seat anymore. So in so many ways, it being symbolic for a recovery of a skip step that she'd brought in prior to the current life, of compensating, of kind of bowing in, or caving in. That's South Node in Libra can be very much wanting to play the peacemaker, and the task of the North Node being in Aries in the third house, ruled by the Mars and Cap in the 12th, was saying, so if that happens, you don't take the back seat, and whatever comes from there is what comes. And then becoming an inspiration, seeing the 12th house, or starting something that became bigger than just Rosa Parks. And I think that's also a important aspect of her message too, is that it wasn't about her being the center or the icon of what happened, but rather being a catalyst for courage. And I see that very much with the North Node being in Aries in the third house, and Mars in Capricorn. Fine, again, whatever social consequences come for speaking my truth and acting in this way, I know I have to do it to recover these steps. So it became very intense, or it became a critical issue that she, in her life, again, refused to take the back seat.
Yeah. And I just want to remember the funny part is like that she actually was in a seat. Like it's funny that just how you said it, Deva, is how we all remember it and how we all say it. But she literally was in the back seat. And
yeah,
even though she was in the back seat, they still wanted her to give up the back seat. So
right.
and I think about how perfect for like South Node and Libra. Of course, I'll accommodate and give you my seat, right? So I just love that visual of no, you're gonna have to yank me right out of my seat if you wanted to. So
Yeah.
I mean, which is such a good Aries, like, right? I mean, yeah, Aries.
And not premeditated at all. It just happened. The spontaneity, it just happened in and of itself. The day just like any other, but she decided today, on this day,
I love it.
I won't be taking it anymore.
In retrospect, we should have pulled that chart up so we could have looked at what happened on that day. But
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a good idea.
Yeah. Rose, can you add for us about the ruler of the South Node and the North Node, and how that leads into this, what we're calling the Rosa Parks?
Absolutely. So the South Node is located in the 9th house, and it's in the sign of Libra. So whenever we're looking at, whatever signature it is, we're looking for the ruler. We're looking for the ruler of the South Node. The ruler of the South Node is Venus, and Venus is in Aries. It's located in the 2nd house, and it is conjunct the North Node. So when you have a condition of the ruler of the South Node on the North Node, something from the past is brought forward and is a key to your evolutionary forward. It unlocks it. It is something from the past integrated in some kind of new way. All right. And we have Venus in Aries anyway. So the South Node in Libra, this is very interesting, actually. Libra, as Tara, as you said, it's a cardinal sign, it's initiatory. And Libra is the archetype of social acceptability. The Venus principle is all about what has value and meaning. What's the worthiness of this, and so forth. And when you tie it to 9th house, the South Node in the 9th house has everything to do with the cultural values, the moral values, the social acceptability. And this is exactly, we have some philosophies on, on this idea of segregation is, legitimate. This is the way we always do it, right? So it's all of this. But I also want to say that Libra is the archetype of diverse and diversity of experience. So it's multiples, right? It's a lot of different things. And the South Node is a composite of issues and circumstances and behavior patterns. And of course, it's the emotional foundation. So there's been information coming in, information coming in, information coming in. And when we look at Rosa's chart, then with Venus on that North Node, there is a suggestion here that she's set up for a pivotal something, set up for that pivotal moment. It was going to be a one thing that was going to be a trigger, that was going to be, resolving that skip step with Pluto, moving the repetition compulsion of the Libra, going around the bend, going around the bend, going around the bend. I want to bring this up because I did some research on her chart. And, first of all, she wasn't the first person not to give up her seat on the bus. It actually been over a 10-year period that there were a number of people who actually done that. But Rosa, as a catalyst, she had some social acceptability. She was a married woman. She was a woman, so she was, the NAACP, decided to use her because she had a lot of appeal and acceptability. She wasn't, she wasn't very impressive in terms of aggressive, the world could kind of accept her, right? It's all of that. And for 10 years, she had been involved in civil rights anyway, right? So she had been coming along. But here's a really, really interesting tidbit here. There's a few things, when she was a child, she was often bullied physically by the white kids. And she said, as far back as I remember, I could never think in terms of accepting physical abuse without some form of retaliation if possible. So she's already picking up that Venus in Aries, like there's already a bit of a warrior going on with that, right? Now, it was almost 10 years earlier. Let me see if I can find this. Almost 10 years earlier, when she boarded the bus and paid a fare. And what the common practice was in those days was, if a Black person, went to get on the bus and there was some white people there, they would pay their money to the bus driver, and then they would have to get out and go round to the back door to get onto their seat, right? So in this particular case, what happened was she paid her money and did, what was, acceptable at the time, went to the back of the bus, and the bus driver took off and left her in the rain. Okay, so there she was standing there. Okay. She was, at that time, she said she was determined never to ride with that bus driver again. This incident on the bus, same bus driver. Can you believe that? Really, really quite incredible. So you see how, and, because she had already been working in civil rights and working for the NAACP, she had been doing some research on violations. There was some murders that had taken place. All of this was getting her blood to boil. So by the time that this situation came, and as Tara was saying, she was already sitting in the colored section, and it was necessary to push the colored people back because the white people needed more room. And what she did was she just, and there were 4 of them, and 3 got up and moved. Rosa was the only one that didn't. So again, the singularity of that Venus in Aries, that's it's the warrior, it's the one, who is going to do this. And what she actually did was she just moved over to the window seat, right? And then when she was arrested as well too, she didn't put up any resistance. She was very polite, so it's all this, it's all this kind of piece of it. But it was that when you see that South Node, you think about all the diverse experience. It's a catalyst. Everything is building up to a pivotal moment. And her chart was already set up for this pivotal moment. And, I did research on the actual incident, and this is fascinating. Venus was at 2 degrees Capricorn, squaring that Venus. on that exact date, the day that she sat down on the bus. So like, amazing. So you can see how all of that, like her chart was primed and ready. Venus on the North Node gives you, it facilitates the North Node access. And then it takes a transit, or it takes that pivotal moment to move into to forward and to resolve that skip step with Pluto and so on. Fascinating story, and all demonstrated by her chart there.
Thank you, Rose. That was great. Thanks for doing that extra research. It makes makes us kind of almost can feel like we can feel more what was actually happening in the moment. I was thinking too, with Venus ruling the South Node conjunct the North Node, or Venus as the ruler of the South Node conjunct the North Node, and then Mars as the ruler of the North Node, there's like a new integration of a masculine and feminine energy, of what I call like a balance of give and take, right? So literally how we give it, how we take it. And I mean, most of us all know that Venus in Aries does not take it lying down, right? So if, and so that there to me is like it's like a, probably for her, and certainly, I mean, wish we could ask her, but I bet this impacted a lot more than just segregation on the bus. Like this was also about her personally and her own balance of those energies.
Well, that's an interesting point, Tara. Another piece of research is that when she started working for the NAACP, she was the only woman in the room, and they needed a secretary. And so, a secretary is kind of a feminine role, but her boss said, the only place for women is in the kitchen, but they needed a secretary, and she was one who could do that. So they gave her the job, and she said she was too timid to turn it down. So, the timidity is shown by that Libra in the South Node in Libra, but progressively she learned to grab that Venus in Aries, right? Yeah.
Awesome. So I just have a couple notes about just the Venus conjunct the North Node before we move on here. And I was just thinking, and this is just a recap, and I know some of you may be newer to astrology, but a North Node in Aries just on its own, it's very much a signature of independence. It's about blazing your own trail. It's following your own authentic desire. It's choosing and acting for yourself. It's having courage, having the freedom to explore and be willing to stand alone. There's something about that piece with North Node and Aries, being willing to stand alone for what's true to you. When we add Venus in Aries right there with that energy, that adds this emphasis of self-worth, self-love, self-value, right? That really being able to stand up for yourself. And Venus, when you add that with Aries, it is a champion of the self, but also a champion of all individuals, right? So what you stand up in for yourself, when you say yes or say no, whichever direction that is for you, you set an example for everyone else to be able to do that for themselves. I very much think of Aries as being a champion of the individual, not by leaving the whole community behind, but by being able to say that everyone has a right to be who they are, to be themselves. I also, some things I think about with this is being the art of courage, or the beauty of courage. And so Rose, when you added, part of those stories of even just how, she scooted to the window seat, like even how it looked, right? Just the look of that act, which I can guarantee you it wouldn't have looked so pretty had it been me, right? So, I mean, there is something to be said for that. And oftentimes when I'm working with clients and I'm talking about some of this really like this initiative energy that really changes things and it can be intense, sometimes the only way we get people to get on board with it is by making it on some level aesthetically or energetically in a way that people can receive it. That's super Venus. That's the power of Venus, right? So even in this signature, you don't want to leave that South Node Libra ruled by Venus behind. It's about fully integrating it, which clearly in this chart it is, because Venus is then there with the North Node. So yeah, I think the last thought I had was, this is really too about feminine strength. And this is not, I'm not talking female here. I'm talking feminine, like the strength and feminine energy that's in all of us. And relationship freedom, right? It's like the freedom to connect and integrate how we want, and to express how we feel, and to choose for ourselves, choose how we want to relate and how we want to integrate and how we want to be a part of, our world. Yeah. I think I mean, certainly I knew about Rosa Parks, but I'd never given so much thought to this. It actually is it's very inspiring, and it's so fun with astrology to see. I mean, the way this signature is woven together. And I agree with you, Rose. It was like just meant for that moment in time. Not that she didn't do lots of other things, but that moment in time just like sings like a during a big symphony or something, like the one moment, you know, where it's the part that you just say, wow, it's all led up to this. So,
well, you know, and you know, Aries isn't about a forethought. You know, that's the total moment, you know, the total moment. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no forethought. It's Aries is like streaming consciousness. It's all it is now. It's a, you know, now. So, you know, that's really where it gets its power. So Soul, would love if you would talk about that stellium in Aquarius, because that clearly was having an impact in all this too.
Yeah, very interesting. She's born just one day after, well, me. So, and then we share the same ascendant. So, okay, hello, Rosa. You know, the point of suddenness, you know, this point of synchronicity of being wherever you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there is definitely also reflected in those Aquarian planets, especially the conjunction between Uranus and Mercury. And there is this thing with this trauma of not being heard, of not being listened to, of not being taken seriously. That's pretty hard for an Aquarius / Capricorn kind of soul, you know, because they have something to bring. You know, she definitely had a lot to bring. This is active intelligence, incredibly smart woman, very witted, you know, plenty of perspective, capacity to act in a civil way. Aquarius is known to be a cold sign, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, you know, because in a heated situation where there's mass consciousness happening, you know, people tend to flare up very easily. But she was playing, you know, she was chill. She was cool, which is the cool detachment of Aquarius, which is extremely helpful when we're dealing with very challenging and emotionally high, you know, emotionally intense issues like this, which was such a painful, you know, repetition throughout a life. Can you imagine having to do that over and over and over again? How incredibly humiliating, and how incredibly, you know, there's no dignity in treating people like that. And Capricorn being a sign of dignity, and also actually on the upper end of Aquarius, you have the capacity to understand human rights. For me, that's you know, that's the sign of Aquarius, is human rights. And it is the understanding that we're all under the same sky. Yes, we come from different demographics, we come from different cultures, we are different, you know, we have different sex, etc., and so forth, but we still have to eat and have a safe place to stay and have fresh water and all those things. And it's just basically that kind of understanding that drives forward not just this kind of battle, but also, for instance, you know, the women's rights, etc., and so forth. And we're still in it today, where we see a lot of other issues being fought for that has to do with the uniqueness of each individual. And this is very much what Aquarius loves. You know, like, I love it that everybody had some equal opportunities, despite this very hierarchical society that we've got. So her genius and her suddenness as well, you know, just getting that bright idea that you will not move. No, not this time. I've had it. It you know, came as a flash of light, you know, before she could even think about it. It was just there. And that's her way of thinking, her way of understanding things is working on a very high level when Mercury conjuncts Uranus. And the interesting thing about her chart, though, with especially thinking about that Aquarius thing, is that the Sabian symbol for her sun sign is a big businessman at his desk. And it shows organizing things, running a business, attending to paperwork, or generally being very much in charge. So it's very much in her cosmic fingerprint to be that kind of person. Also thinking of somebody with a powerful conjunction to the nodal axis like Venus tends to get favorable, tends to be favorably received by, they're loved, they're generally loved by others. And coming in with a natural leadership, a natural activism, it's just comes so naturally for her to have a little resistance on the insides, although it's not aggressive, it's just diplomatic. It reminds me of the way that Gandhi would do his work as well, in a very, like it's a common challenge for a person who's civil, is that how do I fight this thing? I don't want to go to war. I don't want it to be bloody. I don't want it to bleed out and become raw and wild and out of control. But I still need to, mark my boundaries. So it's kind of like a conflict. How do I become an activist in a world where there's so much war already without bringing even more war to it, but I still have to stand up for this? So I think she did, very well by being, she was just perfectly designed to taking on that role, because she managed to actually become a symbol of inspiration. Somebody we could really, all of us, look to. Is that if you wanna create peace? Well, look, we have these people. You can have, like, these are the people who understood how to do it. I'm just gonna do it through showing, through, and if I get arrested, I'm going to go peacefully. So I think it's really a sign of intelligence that comes through with her. Like, she had the correct understanding in order to take that role without getting herself hurt, which is very important in this case. All right, so yeah, it shows this maturity of her soul. She's extremely intelligent and, was extremely intelligent and mature. So yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. I was thinking when you were talking, it made me think about the nice alchemy of the fixed sign Aquarius in the cardinal first house. Like as you were talking about some of those things, that there's an opportunity between those two that clearly worked really well for her.
Well, you got to finish what you start.
Yeah, but I mean, that gives you, because if all that was just fiery stuff there, like, it's hard to finish what you start, right? I mean, it gives it there's a different staying power when you add that. Capricorn has staying power too, but then you add that fixed sign with the motivation to do something, like, it means it actually happens. And so, like Rose was talking about how she wasn't the first person to not give up her seat, but this is when things actually happened that actually led to the change of segregation and transportation. So it was the right alchemy that it all, I guess, the wheels hit the road, if you will, right? I mean, it actually, things shifted.
Oh, she's such a powerful figure. I mean, not just for the segregation, the battle that was fought, but she's also a woman, right? So it just makes it even more powerful, because, that's like adding a minus to a minus, It's
Exactly.
yeah.
It's interesting too, in my research, that when she was arrested, they said to her, well, we're going to have to arrest you. And she just said, well, go ahead and do what you have to do. And it just is very detached, very, Mercury and Aquarius, very rational, right? Instead of, well, the ball's rolling now, let's just keep it rolling. Yeah.
And very interesting too that this happened exactly during the Uranus opposition, although we weren't supposed to talk about that, but it just makes itself a natural point, because I mean, that's when you realize a lot of who you really are. Oh, so that's who I am. Okay, all right. So maybe some people go through life trying to avoid that very part. I just want to, like, go back to the South Node and be very people pleasing and whatever. But then she realized, okay, I might have a role that is bigger than what I'm comfortable with. Maybe I'm supposed to be some sort of role model for a lot of other people. And it, I would think it was reluctantly as well. She wouldn't actively seek it, it just happened to her naturally through some serendipity almost. Like it was like almost like a miracle that, she never planned it, so it just came out of thin air. And that is such a Uranus experience. It's just all of a sudden you're being initiated into your true identity, and having to take, well, the Capricorn ascendant, having to take responsibility for that. You know, you have to, you know, now you have to carry that torch, and it's not going to be painful. It's actually going to be very meaningful.
Yeah, there had to be such, I would imagine there had to have been such an internal release of, I mean, just in her making that choice for herself, just the freedom she created for herself, even if she was arrested or what came after, like the freedom, to me, the freedom signature really was that she made the choice for herself. So, you know, I mean, I can't imagine what it felt like to be her, but I can think of points in my life where that was the winning point right there. You know, I made that choice for me. And so really, no matter what the consequence might be, when you know you've made the right choice for you. And again, I feel like that Aquarius in the first house very much embodies that. So cool. Well, we better move on, but I could just keep on going with you guys for.
Just real quick, Tara, for the record, it was extremely appropriate to talk about that Uranus opposition. Okay, like I love the transits that are unlocking the chart in this way. So, and of course, Soul, you're talking about the Aquarian energy, and it was right. That's the transit that unlocked it all for her. So, thank you for weaving that in.
Yeah. Okay, Stacie, we are ready to talk about Moon trine Saturn.
Okay, here we go.
Whoa!
It's backwards, but it says nah.
Oh.
What's it say below that? This is Rosa Parks, 1955.
Oh, nah.
Nah. Which is pretty perfect, because with that Saturn in Taurus, you know, it's like you don't need a lot of words. Nah.
No.
So yeah, so I'm gonna be very brief. So we have the moon in Capricorn in the first house, which is of course ruled by Saturn in Taurus in the fourth, which we can say is a repeating theme. And so, oh, the other thing I want to say is that the south node of Saturn, what is it? This font is so small. Hang on. Let me just make sure I'm right. South node of Saturn is on that moon. So, you know, there's been some, because let's remember that Saturn is the structure of consciousness and how consciousness is defined. And so she's had previous lifetimes where she's been working on this, and having the moon in the first house, this becomes very instinctual. It's not something that comes with a lot of forethought. And then when we consider the trine to its ruler, Saturn in Taurus in the fourth, this is a disseminating trine, which means, well, first Saturn in Taurus, this is really, the structure of consciousness is really, did I do something?
Hit your video button.
I'm sorry.
We can still hear you though. There.
Hi again. And so, yeah, the structure of consciousness, and we see that she has, you know, with that Saturn in Taurus in the fourth, that her image has really been, she's spent a lot of time really focusing on her inner value, herself, simplicity. You know, she doesn't have to go out and make a big fanfare. And with the disseminating trine that exists between this moon in Capricorn in the first with Saturn in Taurus in the fourth, is that it shows that her self-image and her emotional dynamics, these are not things that she thought to do. These are instinctual. She just instinctually acts, but yet the disseminating nature of the trine means that these two things are working together in a harmonious way, which has a specific aim to help the consensus evolve. And, you know, she didn't think about this. She didn't premeditate this. It just happened. It was simple, but yet the masses really related to her experience, and it became iconic. It became an iconic example of what it means to value yourself, regardless of what the consensus says. You know, and so, yeah, that's kind of really the point that I wanted to highlight, is just that it wasn't planned. It was simple and natural, and there you go.
Awesome.
I always think of the moon too, or with the moon Saturn in that trine aspect, that what you feel, your emotions, your own personal state can manifest easily, right? Without you even realizing that it's happening. So
Yeah.
it's almost like the inside comes out without, just like you said, very instinctually. So, and I had that feel around it too, with, you know, with her not even knowing, but look, we're still talking about it today, right? That's what a big, powerful statement that it made. Yeah. Exactly.
Over time, right, Capricorn?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Lasting. It's a lasting. We're just, this fingerprint is very lasting. Kristin, I'm super excited to hear about this, because Lilith, the actual asteroid Lilith, is right there with Venus in the North Node in Aries, and I would love for you to give us your wisdom about that.
Absolutely. And Stacie mentioned about repeating themes, and I really wanted to add to that a bit and say that when we're looking at charts and we're really uncovering the journey of the soul and looking at the fingerprint, you are going to see themes repeating, and we have we not? Asteroid Lilith, this is not to be confused with the black moon. The black moon is a projection in space. The asteroid Lilith is actually a physical body. It's an asteroid that sits in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. It does have a south node and a north node. We won't talk about that today, but you are able to find yours through a website. If you're interested, email me and I'll give you the link. But there are nodes of Lilith, which is why we look to the asteroid in evolutionary astrology. The asteroid Lilith is the preconditioned, undistorted, feminine expression of you. Essentially the feminine fingerprint, I would call it. And we are all equally male, female, or intended to be equally male and female, depending on, regardless of which gender we find ourselves in, right? We're all trying to actualize both sides of gender, and really evolved souls look equally male and female. And look at Yogananda, Jeffrey, equally male and female. So as we evolve, we want to embody both sides of gender equally. And in Rosa Parks' example, the asteroid Lilith is in Aries, which is restating this theme. She is inherently courageous. She certainly deviated from her fingerprint, which is why you see a south node in Libra, the acquiescing perhaps in order for her to survive Saturn and Taurus. She's got, a need to survive, and we all want to survive. So of course, if survival's on the line, not a lot of us are going to be willing to die for what we believe in, although it sounds ideal. And in this case, I think she did come to die for what she believed in ultimately, with Pluto squaring the nodes. That was part of her need to recover, the full breadth of who she was, and to be a soul that would carry the torch for everyone, to sacrifice her own life, literally, is really what it could feel like. Getting arrested and all of that, not just being a Black man, but a Black woman in a world where, the lowest on the totem pole at that time. You can see the sacrificial signature with her Mars in Capricorn in the 12th, opposing Neptune in Cancer. So anyway, asteroid Lilith in Aries is really just restating her nature as being the one to take the lead, someone who literally is leading by example. I like which one of you said, now I can't remember who it was, I think maybe you, Tara, but just the natural way that she moved over to the window seat, and she was leading by example. She wasn't, I think, Sol, you said this too. She just did it gracefully. The way that she was taking charge or taking the lead wasn't a very Libran way. But her original roots as a woman are undistorted, preconditioned nature as a feminine expression for all of us. Look to your asteroid Lilith, and you will. It's the natural wild woman within you, whether you're a man or a woman. And for a man, it might be his ideal image of a woman. But for Rosa, what she was attracted to in terms of being a woman in the world, of course, was what she would be drawn to in terms of her most natural expression of who she is to be courageous, to not look to anyone else to take the lead, but to take it herself no matter what. And that's what she did. So she is an embodiment of an Aries and Aries energy in a woman's body. So goddess bless her.
Well, Kristin, isn't that an ally with Pluto square the nodes, which in some ways I always feel like Pluto square the nodes is reclaiming your power, right? I mean, it's literally reclaiming your path, your power, your evolutionary journey for you. So, and sometimes we need some big warrior allies in our psyche to help us do that. So
I wanted to say one more thing too. So for people that are getting confused about the Lilith glyph, they probably have not seen this glyph before because it's not typically showing up on the wheel. But Jeffrey used to teach, you know, because things were so confusing with the asteroid Lilith, the dark moon Lilith, and the black moon Lilith. And Jeffrey used to teach that, you know, every symbol in the chart has there's like a triple signature, right? Really, we have, or a light and a shadow, I should say. So there's the original Lilith, which is your original expression of the feminine. The distorted Lilith can be seen in that same signature as we repress what is natural, right? We don't have to look to 3 positions or planets or spaces or places. We just look to that one single signature. Asteroid Lilith can be distorted. What does it happen when you repress what is natural? You know, and then also there's a resolution that can exist within that same asteroid Lilith and Aries. And so that's what we can look to in any archetype that we're addressing in a chart. The original, the distorted, and the resolution can be seen within any signature. So keep it simple for yourself and just look to that asteroid. I recommend that.
awesome.
All right.
Okay, so I think it's time for some comedy.
Yeah, let's go.
So we're going to hand this over to Soul.
Stand-up astrology is what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a stand-up astrologer. But since I'm so lazy, I'm going to do the sit-down variety. So yeah. What's funny to me though, you know, a lot of times when you think about Capricorn, you think about somebody who might be very serious and extremely, you know, not always so spontaneous, right? There's like this thing with spontaneity that can be a little challenging for anything Capricorn. Like, because the consciousness has started to mature. So you become extremely aware of yourself. You're aware of that. I don't know if that was so funny. You're like humbling yourself constantly by coming with nice advice on how to survive in the world. But there's something happening with Capricorn when they individualize. And that's why I thought this picture was extremely funny, because you wouldn't think that, but they can go completely punk. It's anarchy, you know, and I think it was mentioned earlier on that, you know, they start to oppose the system. They don't want to be part of it, you know. They simply don't want to be part of how the structure has been created. And you see that very clearly, for instance, in Virgo too, when you have somebody who's like contradicting themselves. It's like individualizing is a phase where the sign, you're starting to contradict your own sign in a way. No, I don't want this. I don't want to be part of a group. You know, I don't want to behave nicely. I want to make my own rules. You know, it's all about harmonizing back to the laws, you know, the natural laws of society, and that's Capricorn. But when these laws are distorted, you can have that punk kind of anger. You know, Patti Smith is a Capricorn, and then you have people like Andy Kaufman and Jim Carrey. You know, very funny, strange Capricorns who are like embodying that side. Like, I'm going to make it so, like, I don't know if you know about Andy Kaufman, but he was just legendary in the world of stand-up. And he could go out on stage and he could make people extremely uncomfortable. By like he didn't hand out nothing for free, you know, like he didn't give you, like you were there, like I was of course looking at you too when I saw this, but you were there staring at, like, wondering how to react and just completely, you know, revealing to his audience that this is how you feel about yourself. In a way, it's quite healing, but it's extremely confronting and very uncomfortable. And that's the dryness and the precision of the Capricorn intellect. You know, they know exactly, they have this dry kind of humor, but the earth humor is always practical, pragmatical. It's never about lying. It's never about, it's just about telling things as it is. And that's why it's so funny. I'm just telling things as they are, you know? I think we had another few other memes here. Did you get them in? Because I was a little slow. Because we had, oh yeah, here's Venus in Capricorn. There's the remorse of Venus in Capricorn. And every time I think about Venus in Capricorn, Britney Spears pops up. She actually is, yeah, she's born with Venus in Capricorn, and she's a Sagittarius with Venus in Capricorn. And it's that,
Venus
yeah.
Venus just moved into Capricorn yesterday. So
Yes, it did. It did, absolutely. So I thought, you know, like, and immediately you start thinking about the consequences of your actions. But then again, we have one impulsive side like this. She has that impulsive Sagittarius thing, you know, I think this is a good idea. And then, oops, oh no, it wasn't a very good idea. So it's like the Venus remorse, the Venus in Cap remorse is actually quite heavy. You know, it's not something you don't take lightly upon your responsibility as a human being. But this is also the person who married somebody and divorced the same person, I think, what, 24 hours later. It's like, yeah, not that, you know, I'm a big fan, you know, I'm a big fan of people in general. So I don't, you know, I'm a big fan of Britney Spears, and she's going through some very intense and difficult times right now. But she stands forever as the girl who came out, you know, when she came out into the world, she will always be the oops, I did it again person. And sometimes I make a mistake and I'm like, oh, oops, I did it again. And you have to learn to turn the other cheek, you know? It's like, okay, so you did it again. Nothing is perfect. And always when the Capricorn is being more spiritually ambitious, there always a certain degree of ambition. This is like the introductory level to Capricorn spiritual. It's like anti-gravity defying, you know, like I'm not going for the small prize. I'm going, you know, we aim higher. Yeah, it's not just about being able to control your mind and emotions and whatnot. No. We're going to defy gravity here, you know. And I have a Capricorn as that rising, and it's actually one of my pastime favorites to think about. I wonder about how people would actually feel, and you know, if I could only show them that levitation is possible. Not that I've mastered it yet, but I would love to just do it, you know, in random public places, just to kind of like show people that, you know, there's more to life than, you know, cars and clothes. I just, so, but you know, and since Saturn is such a gravity, it's lead, you know, boom, boom, like very heavy. It's like if Capricorn makes a mistake, he's, you know, you don't have to tell the person because he or she will know, you know, like, and they will be pretty hard with themselves when they discover that, oops, I did it again, you know. So being, you know, learning how to walk on water. Jesus was also the character that we cast for Capricorn. It's like, and he was actually gravitational in his form, you know, walking around on water. And it's such a brilliant symbol of the transformation of going to lead into something more light. When you become more attuned to the principles of love and not so judgmental towards yourself, you can see that it starts to lighten up. The Capricorn archetype lightens up. It's not so serious. Okay, I will not burn in hell for this. Okay, sweet. I will still be able to sleep the next 14 days. You know, it's not that I don't have to, you know, punish myself in order to feel great again. So, and then maybe, you know, there's a possibility to actually levitate. I mean, I'm a firm believer that it's possible. It's just that I haven't mastered it yet. And certainly it would be interesting though. So that would be a Capricorn spiritual, is like, you know, And here's Mars in Capricorn, just
Oh.
chilling, huh? Doesn't hurt, no? I've seen my yoga teacher, she's a Mars in Capricorn. I think she broke everything that's possible to break because she loves to push herself, you know. And she's just like, I'm going to just push myself a little further. Do you mind, you know, when everybody's else like, I think we're going to get a break, you know? And she's like, no, handstand, no. It's just really hardcore. Come on, we don't rest until we're half dead. And, you know, like, and this one, especially, you know, and the pain thing, you know, like embracing pain. Both Mars and Venus in Capricorn, and Capricorn in general, it's like this seeking out the intensity, anything just to touch me, to move me, get me. I want to feel something, because it can become extremely crystallized, and it can be very, you know, there's these walls that we need to penetrate as well. And just learning how to embrace pain, because there's so much of it in life, also opens up to actually enjoying life, which is equally difficult for Capricorn. It's like, damn, I just ate a bar of chocolate and it's probably not good. There's consequences. And you can get this kind of anorectic way of living life where there's like measured and controlled and structured and routined and disciplined, which is good unless it's taken too far and it becomes a walk in the desert. And that's very often the thing with earth signs, that it can be dry, you know, it can be very dry. It needs water, it needs something to feel itself. So I think, you know, also this Mars in Capricorn, just trying to push yourself to the limit, etc. It's actually, there is a breaking point, and at that breaking point, the sensitive side of Capricorn is coming out. It is a very, you know, it's a very sensitive sign. They are very soft on the inside, longing for tenderness, longing to be seen, but not quite comfortable with expressing vulnerability. So I think that was my my little memes. Oh, hello. There's Venus in Capricorn. Yeah. I have this fantasy. Next thing I'm doing is the 40s. I want to go back in time always with my outfits. And this is evidently from some cabaret life in the 20s, some Parisian thing that I carried in my soul. And I'm very comfortable with a bowler hat, to be quite honest. It's like my thing.
You look like you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, you definitely rock that hat, Soul. I love that picture of you. It's so great. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm really excited to move on to the next segment, which expanding the EA circle, where we have Sarah DeHaven here with us. This is a segment that we really want to dedicate to people who who have embraced EA and who have really integrated and who are up and coming, and you know, to celebrate the diversity that is within our group. And I'm particularly excited about Sarah. I have to tell you, I followed her after a recent event, the astrological overview, and I was just blown away by her natural ability to synthesize and just naturally present things that are practical but completely profound. So let's take some time and get to know Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So first question, how did you find EA?
Yeah, well, luckily for me, it wasn't too long into my journey, as, you know, when I decided I wanted to use astrology in my work. You know, I started out as a busker doing psychic readings in the town I lived in, and I realized astrology was a big piece of where I needed to go to really be able to tap into people's souls, which was something that I wanted to do for a very long time, just to help to actually be able to communicate with a person like in a real way. And so yeah, I was following conventional means of becoming an astrologer. I was training for the NCGR And I was at a conference, and I heard someone talk about Jeff Wolf Green. And coincidentally, just before the conference, I saw the book Pluto in the bookstore of the metaphysical shop where the convention was being held. And I was like, yeah, Pluto's kind of cool, right? And so I went in and they were talking about it, and they were mentioning just a bit about how it was strange. And I have an Aquarius south node with Mars on my Aquarius, like Mars in Aquarius on my south node. So I was like, oh, unconventional, I'm going to buy that book. It was on sale for $10 because it was used. And I'm like, I'm getting that before anyone else gets it. So I like ran back out and grabbed it, read the book, and realized that is the astrology I wanted to do. That exactly, because that's literally the astrology that penetrates into the soul. And, you know, for years, like I was saying, this was something I actually asserted. I said, I want to be able to speak into the souls of people so that we can actually communicate. And then years later, you know, I came across the book, and that was the start of it. And from there, I just started picking up what I could on the internet about EA, and eventually started taking the Jeff Wolf Green course, the correspondence course, and also Kim Marie's course, because I just wanted to absorb as much as I could. And so now here I am today, very appreciative of it, because it's, as far as I know, it's the only astrology that uses the nodes of planets, which just blew my mind when I realized, you mean you can look at nodes that aren't just the moon? Like, that's incredible. And my brain, I mean, I have a 6th house Mercury, so I was just like, let's analyze all the details of like the nodes. And so, yeah, that's how I came across it. And I don't plan on going back anytime soon, because it's an incredible tool. Like, just unparalleled in my opinion for this type of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the things that I notice about, well, one of the things that I notice about you is that you really, you're a very intelligent person. And, you know, you really are. You just grasp onto things so naturally and easily. And EA, really, evolutionary astrology, is not a simple astrology system. It's very complex. And it's like you say, we incorporate the nodes, and there's all these factors. And I've just personally been impressed by your ability to just really grab it and synthesize it. So how do you see EA affecting your future?
Well, like I said, it's a key piece for me as far as like even my own journey. It's been very validating for stuff that I knew about myself, but I couldn't necessarily verbalize, you know, having it on the screen and being able to actually decipher the language of things that were deep in me. I mean, I have Pluto on the IC, Uranus in the 4th house, it's in Scorpio. There's a lot of fragmentation happening in me. So it helped me to kind of pull it together in a way where I could just kind of sit there and look at the chart and kind of connect, you know, my brain with that and pull it together in an intuitive, but also left-brained way. So it's impacted my life in a huge way, because I literally have a map to help come back to also help improve my somatic awareness, because I think it was Solo saying earlier, somebody was talking about how the body knows everything. Like, it has high intelligence. It really understands things that our brain doesn't really get in the same way. So the chart, how it's impacted my life, it actually helps me to tap into my body more. You know, I have Chiron and Taurus too, so it kind of helps with that. But yeah, also in aside from my own personal uses for it, it helps in a way. Well, I mean, it's very important to me to help others. I really want to assist in the effort to bring people back onto their path, because there's a lot of people who are well off their path but want to figure out how to get back on. And I feel like evolutionary astrology I just feel like it's an unparalleled tool to help assist with that. And so it's been a huge impact, because it's one of the main tools that I want to just continue to improve on, so that more and more I can get very exact and precise when I'm speaking to a person, so that I'm helping them ensure that they're on their path and nobody else's.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I'm hearing in your words is really, it's a simple word: objectification, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where you can stand back and look at a dynamic or a symbol or a theme, and, you know, gain insight and then transmit it to someone who is open to a message of growth. So yeah, I get that. So what are you drawn to do?
Well, that's pretty much it, really. I mean, aside from my own self-actualization, because that's kind of important to me too. I mean, if you look at my chart, it's very obvious. Again, South Node in Aquarius in the 7th house with Mars on it. My North Node's near my rising in Leo. So it's like, hey, you're kind of here to be you. And like, it's very important to me. So what I'm really drawn to is that, you know, letting go of some of the traumas that I've accumulated over this life so that I can kind of just let go and be who I am. But also, it's really important to me to help. Well, essentially, like it's just like a very strong impulsion to want to help people. To kind of like, I mean, again, 6th house energy, clean up the mess that I see. I kind of want to just help with that as much as I can in a way that is, you know, I mean, just contributing to the effort to bring about the best possible evolution for everybody, you know. So it's kind of dual. I mean, I know again, South Node in the 7th house, so I'm always thinking about other people, but I also want to do me too at the same time. So it's about balancing that. And that's kind of what I do now. So I'm very happy with my work. I don't really plan on changing it too much. It may adapt with time as things change and everything with the world and stuff. But I feel like I'm pretty aligned to what I want to do vocationally. And I'm very, you know, self-determination, self-actualization are very important to me. So, yeah.
Well, I have to say, I am so excited about you. I really am. Like I love how you present your ideas. You are so I don't want to say coherent isn't fancy enough. Articulate, that's the word. You are so articulate with your thoughts, and you just can grab from so many different dimensions of any kind of topic. And I just what you were describing as far as wanting to help, and not only just helping other people, but also doing you as well. That's critical, because no astrologer could really help anyone if they're not fully invested in their own inner work.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah, and so I'm just very excited to see where your future path leads, and I'm so pleased that you're part of the tribe, and so looking forward to more from you.
Yeah, thanks very much. You know, I appreciate it. I mean, like I was saying, just based on my energetic makeup, I tend to be an outsider anyways. Like that's just how I am. My brain just, if everyone's on the wavelength, even if I was on the wavelength before, the minute they get on that wavelength, I'm like, oops, I gotta go to a different one. My brain just does that. So like, I always feel like an outsider, but I will say this, like ever since I started with the EA Zoom meetings group, I've just felt embraced and accepted. And that's one of the things I like about EA, is that there's an understanding that I've not seen in any community really, for the individual, right? For the fact that there's a soul imprint that everyone has, and it's not going to be, it's going to be diverse. It's going to be different. And so that's, yeah, I just appreciate that very much. And, you know, thanks for having me on and giving me a chance to share a little bit.
Yeah, well, very excited to see what your future has. And I know we're going to be seeing a lot more of you. So thank you for coming on and sharing yourself with us.
Hey, Sarah, this is Kristin.
Hi.
Wanted to welcome you to Expanding the EA Circle. This is our special spot for people that are really taking great strides in this work. So I just want to commend you for that and welcome you. And also say, hey, it's Capricorn month. Isn't this your birthday month?
It sure is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up in a couple of days. So
well, happy birthday. And
yeah, thank you.
May it be a banner year. You have the support of all of us to just continue what you're doing, and God has blessed you for everything that you're doing for this work and for yourself. You know, That North Node in Leo has an incredible way of shining a light for others, but using that light within yourself to illuminate the way. And so thank you for all you're doing.
Thanks, Kristin. I appreciate that very much.
All right. Well, we will move on to the next. We've got music and movies. Wow, this webinar is getting long, I know, but but I'm very excited about this one. So Deva has just a way of remembering lyrics and movies and dialogue. It's incredible. So she's going to offer a piece of music and a movie for you to check out that connects directly to Capricorn. So hello, Deva.
Yeah, I thought a great movie for this month, the month of Capricorn, and also the cardinal archetypes is the movie's Equals. And from my point of view, it's a movie about recovering natural emotion in the face of intense repression. In the movie, that those that naturally feel are considered or are called genetically defective. They call it SOS, switched on syndrome. And it's considered standing in opposition or in the face of being able to integrate in society in the appropriate way. Everybody's on these big computer screens, absolutely robotic, and anybody that genuinely feels an emotion or breaks out of that, you come on the radar. There's a droot, droot, droot. You have SOS, SOS. And the courage that it then takes to recover a natural emotion in response to that. I remember one of the best quotes is, I don't think there's something wrong with us as we've been told. I wouldn't want to live if I can't feel anything. And in terms of the fourth house polarity point, that Capricorn really wants to open up to being able to integrate both the strength and the vulnerability to access that natural emotion without repression, regardless of the circumstances. That in the movie it becomes big and intense, and you go to what's called the den. you go to the den because you're considered defective, so you'll go here. And also another part is that in the end they make a cure, or they make a vaccination that if you have SOS, you can choose to inoculate yourself to not feel anymore. And then one of the big questions for the two key characters is, are we going to take this vaccination or not? And so it's the courage to live life in an unrepressed way. And in that way, establishing yourself in a way that's most authentic for you, regardless of what's coming at you from the external. So it's beautiful in that it reflects both the strength and the vulnerability at the same time.
I highly recommend this movie. It is unbelievable. So for those of you that are drawn to some of what she's sharing here, Deva, excellent movie. It's incredible for Capricorn Aquarius interface.
Breaking free from artificial models too.
Yeah.
And then the movie the music that I chose is Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. And the quote that really stood out to me is, well, I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you, but time makes you bolder. Even children get older, and I'm getting older too. So in terms of Capricorn building these foundations that ultimately in Aquarius come down in a landslide. You build these foundations around what makes you feel secure, whether it's integrating yourself in a very structured job, a very structured relationship. The square to Libra, it can be at times building your life around other people. And the square to Aries too is breaking free from that, or the courage to discover your own voice independent of that. And with the Cancer polarity, being able to essentially create a new inner home for yourself while the landslide's happening. So for the Capricorn energy, it's really having the courage to allow that landslide to come as fast and as hard and as deep as it needs to come. Because when that landslide happens, that's when we can access that ability to restructure. That's the Capricorn Aquarius. So the reason I picked this for Capricorn is that so many, especially having Capricorn energy can encounter the fear of losing control, the fear of allowing that landslide to happen and then allowing the landscape to just reformulate as it will. So again, I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you and the maturity of time, that over time we build new foundations and we allow that landslide to happen and create what it will.
Awesome. Thank you.
That reminds me a little bit of the Venus in Capricorn as well. You know, I built my life around you. It's that duty, the feeling of like, okay, I created this, so now I have a certain duty to it, you know, like, and now what's the wise thing to do? Should I just tear it all down? Is that the right thing to do? And you can have Venus and Capricorn going circles around their own intuitive need for growth because of all these duties. And sometimes it's distorted ideals that you know, carry the weights of the duty. It's like, because you have to do like this, or you're supposed to do like that and stuff like, you know, like what you have to do or think you have to do might not be the same thing.
That's right. Where does the ultimate responsibility come? Does it come to
Yeah.
keep placating to those artificial obligations and responsibilities, just going through those motions, or does then the inner responsibility become to mature into your own values, into yourself, and saying, I'm accepting responsibility for that? Meaning that I'm restructuring this relationship. The landslide's coming and restructurings and happening, and that responsibility is right there.
Yeah, if I could add something too, I mean, landslides generally involve water, right? And
yeah,
we know that we evolve through the emotional body. And so, you know, you move the earth and the landscape changes.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Rose, let's talk about some transits. New moon in Capricorn conjunct Pluto. This is going to happen on the 12th in 3 days from now. So some of you might be listening to the show around that time, depending on if you're listening live or through YouTube. But let's talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And do we have the chart there, Linda, for the screen here? The 12th of January, we have a new moon in Capricorn, and this is really a potent one because, of course, it's conjunct Pluto, and you can see all the tightness in the chart right here with all those planets in the 11th house and the Capricorn in the 10th house. There's been a lot going on the planet. You know, Capricorn, Capricorn's the archetype of time. And this new moon, it says it is a time has come moment. It's a right time. Capricorn is a duality archetype, and the new moon is just behind Pluto. So a new moon is a new cycle. It gets, this kind of, what are your priorities? There's some new priorities here for you to implement now. And how are you going to restructure, and what kind of building are you going to do now? That's coming along. But the new moon is suggesting, that it's time to put a new format into play. And it's time now to take a look at the way you are judging anything in your life and see, are you kind of coming, are you outgrowing that? What kinds of things here are outworn and need to shift? With Pluto on that new moon, there's a new reality coming into being. A new moon that's balsamic to Pluto is doing two things. It's bringing a point of culmination, and it's also seeding. So there's a very, very potent time of seeding right now. You see what's been happening on the planet. It's now no longer good enough to deny the reality, deny what it is that you have to do for yourself. So it is time now, the sun and moon, that's your, the sun is the creative component, and the moon deals with your emotional body and the intensity of the emotional body and the intensity of the creative force here. We've got a lot of juice in this particular transit. It's interesting because, of course, Capricorn is Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn, and it's just moved into Aquarius. And we have been working with Pluto and Saturn for a whole year in a culminating, getting to a new beginning and so forth. In a lot of the clients that I've dealt with just in the recent past, I've heard a lot of people say, you know, I feel this shift, but I don't quite feel ready yet. You know, Jupiter and Saturn at the end of December changed signs. You know, we're into a new year. We've got a lot of Aquarius to work with. The north and south node rulers, Mercury and Jupiter are in new phase and in the sign of Capricorn. There's a lot of energy here to accelerate moving yourself to a new level, moving in a new direction. It's time to, you know, kind of pack it down. You know, what is it that needs to be completed? We want to get that out of the way. We want to get the rocks out of the way, get the boulders out of the way, so you can clear some space for the new to come in with all that kind of Aquarius energy. It's all synchronicity, and that's all the aha moments and so forth. Got kind of two realities going on here with that Capricorn. Things that are needing to come to an end. And, you know, with Pluto there, of course, things are going to shift. They're going to change. We can see that taking place in the world. We're tired of the old way. And, you know, if you've been kind of denying the reality for a long time and saying, I can't do this, and, you know, I have to keep going in this way, this new moon is going to break down that kind of rationale for you. And, you know, you might find that it might not make sense any longer for you to perpetuate. Certainly situations are going to create that kind of breakdown. This is a really good time for reformatting, restructuring, doing your renovation project. You know, it's funny, I haven't really heard very much, I don't know, maybe I haven't been tuning in, right? But, you know, the new year is about New Year's resolutions. And I haven't really heard very much about people saying, oh yeah, what are your New Year's resolutions? Well, this is a really good one for you to be saying, okay, it's time, I'm going to get on with it. I'm going to make a commitment to laying this foundation for myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're on the brink of so much. Mars and Saturn are coming, you know, they're almost at a square position. Mars is working towards Uranus. You know, Venus is in a disseminating trine to Mars. There's so much creative energy here. And what I'll say is that what is it in your life that you have to move out of the way so that you can have more breathing space? You know, and all you have to do is create that so something new can come in. You might not know what that new thing is, but we're going to look for synchronicity to deliver it. We're going to look for that aha moment. And there's so much life force happening in this coming month. There's, you know, there's several waves to catch. So this one is extremely potent. You know, it is seeding for what comes next. And I just can't encourage enough for you to take it upon yourself to do what must be done in order to clear the space for yourself so that you can move forward. You know, do something actual for yourself, do something physical for yourself to just get yourself positioned and then see what happens next.
Thanks, Rose. You know, I look at this chart too, and when we think of Pluto, we think of through transit about eliminating things in your life that don't serve you anymore. And with Capricorn, we think of our conditioning or anything that we've been holding back. It can be a thought pattern that you have. It could be something that you keep telling yourself, any kind of resistance or fear that you might have. And I look at this chart and I think of the landslide, right? With all that Aquarius energy connected to the Capricorn. So if the structures that you've put up in place in your life aren't going to be sustainable, there will be crippling of energy. There will be an earthquake that occurs. This month there's a lot of stress within the Aquarian Capricorn energetic field, in a sense, when you're looking at Mars coming up to Uranus and Uranus squaring Saturn. You know, all that energy surrounding the need to liberate from the past or break free into new territory, to liberate yourself, to free yourself up, to really honor your own unique individuality. Your fingerprint is really a big part of this year as we look at these trends and transits. So at this new moon, ask yourself, what is it that I need to eliminate in my life in order to embrace this new beginning that defines me, that naturally defines me. So I think this is going to be a very powerful new moon.
Well, and I also think when it comes between Capricorn and Aquarius, given the nature of this new moon, the new wins out over old.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's exactly it, Kristin. You will not be able to sustain what has outworn its time has come moment.
Mm-hmm. No matter how hard you try to control it.
You control it if you want to, but
you can try.
Fall.
You know what it reminds me too? It's like I tell people, with Pluto, you are in the middle of a wave. When you're experiencing a Pluto transit, you are literally in the middle of a wave. It's emerging from the sea. And if you've ever body surfed, when you are in the middle of a wave, there is no way you're going to be able to swim back to the sea. You've committed, right? You've committed to that experience. Whether, it's, when I think of Capricorn, I think of too, take responsibility for the things you have set in motion, right? Finish what you've started. And so we are all now in the middle of a wave, personally and collectively. And in this month, allow yourself to really commit fully to something, because when you resist something that you naturally need to do, it can make you sick. It really can, right? It can make you just fall apart all over the place. And so trust it. That's the power of Pluto, to trust it, to trust yourself, to trust your soul with the things that need to change in your life. And gosh, be Rosa Parks, have the courage to take the lead. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about what they're going to say about you. If you know in your heart that this is what you need to do, through this transiting South Node and Sagittarius, just to honor what is natural within you. And the world, the universe, the gods will support you, will protect you, will allow you to continue to ride that wave fully to completion. But you have to partner with the energy. You have to commit to the way.
It's inevitable. The compelling force is inevitable. So, see the reality for what it is and simply open up to it.
Mm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that contribution. Okay, so for this closing message today, and it's just been an incredible few hours together. I'm so excited about this journey. Every month, we're going to be looking at different archetypes as we move through the zodiac, starting with Capricorn today in January. But I just want to remind you all, in order to follow your fingerprint, if you're ready for this, it does start with deconditioning. As I mentioned earlier, most souls will deviate from their natural design. We will deviate from our natural design. I know for myself, I'm speaking for myself and so many of us, that we have allowed ourselves to be conditioned over time, whether it's too much persecution or judgment, just not wanting to stand out and having a target on our back. It's natural for most of us to want to hide, actually, from who we are if we're going to be subjected to that kind of energy. So I just encourage you to work on this element of deconditioning. It's a Saturnian experience, conditioning itself. But as Saturn is now in Aquarius, it's just an invitation to move away from that and to honor your own unique individuality and your fingerprint. And I love all the beautiful slides, these kaleidoscopes. They represent different colors of who we are and different colors that we bring to the entire landscape of this universe. Each one of us, we do it all. We bring this unique prism. We all hold a piece to this powerful collective fingerprint, and we all have a responsibility to honor that fingerprint. So I hope this has empowered you today on your journey to do just that. This is lastly an image of the root chakra. Pluto is at the center. This is the soul. We each have a responsibility to honor what it is that our soul has come here to do. The Uranian element is that energy that vibrates from our soul, our signal, our radio signal that sends out the message to the world. This is who we are. That vibration is Uranus. Saturn is now in Aquarius, ruled by Uranus. That outer ring is Saturn, which protects us. It's what we defend against when something is coming at us. It's our resistance and our fear. But the energy now is just pushing on that outer ring, that Saturnian ring, And it's our job to really allow it to wear down, to thin out a little bit. So more of our signal can be emitted. So more of our essence can be received by everybody, by the people that we want to receive our message. What is the message that you want to send to the universe? What is that individual expression that says, hey, this is who I am, without apologizing for it, really embracing it? And the more we can really access our nature and to be honest with ourselves and with the world, the more attractive we will all become. The more attractive you will be to others that you want to attract into your own life. So allow yourself the freedom now to express your nature. And as we move around the zodiac and we move into the different levels and layers of these archetypes together, may you find the freedom to unravel and unwrap yourself too. Thank you to all these women today. I was just so enjoying all of you. You are my family. We are your family. For those of you that are part of this circle, I just continue to deepen into your journey and liberate yourself from the chains that have bound you. And our next show will be February 6th, looking at Aquarius, Uranus in the 11th house. And we will talk about that archetype specifically next month on the 6th. And I also wanted to let everybody know that we are wrapping up a natural astrology book on the heels of this extensive 6-month series that we did looking at all the archetypes. And our guests here today, our team here today, they're not just guests, they're our team of contributors are all part of this book. It will be out hopefully the end of February, International Voices of EA, looking at the natural astrology through the houses, signs, and planets. So stay tuned for that. And of course, if you're interested in becoming a more serious student, accessing the original material, please visit the Jeffrey Wolf Screen School of Evolutionary Astrology to find out more about that. Okay, gals. Hey, fellow animals. Thanks so much. It was so awesome. Tara, Deva, Stacie, Rose, Soul. I can't wait till next time.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Ciao.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.